Hello everybody, today we're going to be doing a digestion simulation so you can see how your food breaks down as you eat. The first simulation is with crackers. The first one you're going to take and go ahead and just eat it normally. Put it in your mouth, chew it, and think about what is breaking down your food as you eat. So with a cracker, your teeth are mechanically breaking down the food as it's grinding it into smaller pieces. As you're doing that, it's increasing the surface area and allowing saliva to act on it and make it softer so it's easier to swallow. The second cracker, put it in your mouth and don't chew, just let it sit there for a minute and a half and see what that does. In this case, you're not chewing it, so there's no mechanical digestion, but saliva is still being produced and acting on the cracker. So the longer the cracker sits in your mouth, the softer it's going to get. And so after a minute and a half, when you chew, there's not a whole lot of chewing that you have to do. It's pretty soggy, and you'll be able to just chew a few times and swallow your food. So in that case, the chemical digestion of the saliva is softening the food and allowing it to be broken down during that period of time. All right. The second simulation is called bread in a bag, and we're going to see how the food breaks down through the rest of the body. And I encourage you to try both of these out at home and see what it's like. So first, with the bread in a bag, you'll need a piece of bread, and you don't even need a whole piece of bread. You can use half if you want. A Ziploc bag, and usually a freezer-grade Ziploc bag works a little better so that it doesn't leak if you're doing this experiment. And then you'll either need a little bit of water or some apple juice. Either one works just fine. So first, you're going to take your piece of bread and you're going to just tear it up with your fingers and break it into smaller pieces. This would represent your teeth grinding up your food into smaller pieces as you eat. So just break that apart, and like I said, you could just use half a piece if you want, or you can use the whole piece. And as we break it down with our teeth, that is a mechanical digestion. And so you're getting the pieces smaller so that you could actually swallow them. Almost there. Alright, so now we have our food that's been torn up or mechanically digested with our teeth. And we're going to next take our Ziploc bag. And you'll go ahead and open that up and just place the pieces of bread into the bag. And so this is representing you're taking those pieces and you are swallowing them. So they're being forced through the esophagus using peristalsis, and it will end up in the stomach. So now you have your bread that's collecting in your stomach and ready to be broken down even more. So now we're going to take our apple juice. And we're just going to pour a little bit of apple juice into the bag. And then you want to go ahead and seal it up. All right, so the apple juice, that is the gastric juices in your stomach that are going to start to break down the food even more. It's going to be a combination of acids and enzymes, and that will start to soften the food as the food enters your stomach. The next step, you're going to take the bag, and with your fingers, you're just going to squish the bread. And so with this part of it, I'm going to add a little bit more juice here and quite add enough. With this part of the simulation, you're now using the mechanical digestion in the stomach of the peristalsis. That's the stomach muscles that are churning the food and breaking them down along with the gastric juices. And so this will be churned into what will be called chyme. And you can see that the bread is really breaking down into a lot smaller pieces. From here, it will take some time as the stomach breaks down the food. And so at different points, different types of food will leave the stomach and enter the small intestine. For carbohydrates, usually it's an hour or two of digestion in the stomach, and then it'll enter the small intestine. For protein, it's usually 3 to 5 hours, and fat, it's up to 7 hours. Now, in the small intestine, you would have more digestive juices that will start to act on the chyme now to be able to break it down. So you'll have bile, and pancreatic juice, and intestinal juice. The small intestine is lined with little finger-like projections called villi, and those increase the surface area of the small intestine to increase absorption. So the next step, take your bag over to the sink, and I'm just going to use a bowl so that I don't have to move the camera here. And you're going to open the bag just a little bit so that there is a small opening. And what you're going to do is drain out the liquids, keeping the solids in the bag. So at the beginning, in the small intestine, you're going to be draining out the nutrients from that food. A lot of the absorption of nutrients is done in the small intestine, and so you're getting all the good stuff out of your food. As the nutrients are absorbed, the food will be traveling through the small intestine, and then it will make its way to the large intestine. In the large intestine, you're going to be absorbing most of the liquids, as well as potassium and sodium. So that's what this step represents, is not only the absorption of the nutrients in the small intestine, but then also the absorption of the sodium and potassium and liquids in the large intestine. And so what you're left with when you're done with that is all of the solids that are left. The nutrients should have been taken out, and so what you're left with is the waste. And the waste will be eliminated from the body so that you can get rid of that waste and then make room for the next food meal that you eat to be able to move through the digestive system and your body be able to break that down into the nutrients and the things that you need in your so your body can function properly. Kind of an interesting simulation, being able to actually see how that food breaks down. The more that you work with it and have more of that mechanical digestion, the smaller the pieces. And of course, you could drain out a little more of the liquid than I did. But that's what happens to your food as it goes through that digestive process. From here, the bag would go in the trash can, and that would be the elimination of the waste from your system. So I hope you enjoyed that simulation, and I really hope that you try that at home and see how that works and visually see how that food breaks down through that digestive process that we've been talking about. If you have questions, please let me know, and have a wonderful day.